Warning. The topics discussed on this podcast are subject to adult themes and languages. We seek to unravel the unexplained and unknown. This is Encounters.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Encounters. My name's Dakota.
And I'm Amanda.
And today we have another cryptid corner with the Fresno Nightcrawlers and...
the Dark Watchers of California.
Yes, both California cryptids that are in their own right folklore and in their own right just fun, lovable cryptid stories. We originally were going to just do the Fresno Nightcrawler, and then upon more research found out that we needed to probably have a little bit more filler for you, so we're bringing you two California cryptids. I don't know anything about Amanda's story. I had never heard of this cryptid in my life, and I was like, oh, that looks like Hat Man meets Slender Man. Great.
Right? Perfect. Right up my alley.
And mine looks like Spooky Pants, so...
I know, same. I had never heard of mine either. But as soon as you sent me the picture, I was like, oh, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I figured that would be right up your alley.
Yeah, totally.
It's been a minute since we've done a cryptid episode, so
Yes.
it reminds me of kind of when we did our verses. So maybe this should be verses. Ooh, is this the Nightcrawlers versus what is your thing? The Dark Watcher?
The Dark Watcher.
Oh, I'm betting on yours.
Yeah.
Screw mine.
I know. You don't want that smoke.
I don't want Spooky Pants. Let's go with your anime demon from another world.
Totally.
But okay, so
oh, I was gonna say before we jump actually into it, we found out about the Fresno Nightcrawlers while recording a video for our YouTube, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was kind of got on our radar with that. I can't remember what video it was.
I think it was just spooky TikToks because we saw Spooky Pants walking through the camera footage, and there's only 3 confirmed footage sightings of the Fresno Nightcrawler, so it's probably one of those from TikTok. But
yeah, probably.
Definitely check out our YouTube channel. It's Encounters, a Paranormal Experience on YouTube. We have not only our podcast episodes out on there, but we have new Encounters Reacts and fun little things that we have going on there. Come watch and see Amanda and I visually and watch the quality get better.
As we grow and learn with
We've been
videos.
doing the podcast game for a little bit now, so we want to see if we can't do a little reaction for you guys.
Right? If y'all ever wondered what we look like, you can see us now on video on YouTube. Okay, anyway.
Additionally, we have the Encounter shop up and running. You can go to www.dartsdungeon.com/encounters-collection. Get the Encounters t-shirts and the spooky enamel pin collection that has been curated by Darts Dungeon for us. So make sure and check that out. www.dartsdungeon.com/encounters-collection. We will link it on our social media pages and also link our YouTube. Like and subscribe, follow. Make sure you hit the little bell to see everything. We love you. Now, back into the Fresno Nightcrawlers and whatever Amanda's doing.
Yes.
So I won the coin toss, which means I got to go first. So, settle in. So the Fresno Nightcrawler is a cryptid that comes from Fresno, California, but has later had sightings in Yosemite National Park, which is also in California, and has even been said to go as far as Poland in some claims but was seen as recently as 2020 in Billings, Montana. Now, the Nightcrawler has a very specific look about it. It appears to be relatively short, about 3 feet in height, where most of its height is made up of leg. They possess an extremely small upper body, and it's actually very hard to find any kind of details on the upper body, though later depictions would have little eyeballs. But they're basically giant legs with eyes. They have extremely thin, white humanoid-like legs with no discernible arms. A large specimen appears to have webbed connections at its knee to its torso. They appear very short, thin, and stilt-like feet. The cryptids appear to be long and muscular and bend oddly backwards at the knee, very much like a stork. I just think it looks like ghost pants. That's all I can think of every time I've seen it. There are several different original encounters that we have, but the first encounter of the Nightcrawler was just a simple man in Fresno, California named Jose. Jose had surveillance camera footage watching his front lawn and looked at the camera when he heard a dog barking. After being woken up by his dog's barking, Jose observed the Nightcrawlers on his front lawn through CCTV. He woke up his brother to rewatch the footage. Afterwards, his brother claimed to have seen the small footprints outside, but by the time investigators made it to the site, all evidence had been washed away. After the initial sighting, the original CCTV footage was lost. The only remaining footage is a grainy video recorded from a monitor. Now, I've seen this footage. They're definitely weird, ghost-like figures that seem to be just naturally walking through the space. Other footages have emerged, like specifically the one out of Billings, Montana, and it looks almost as if they're floating instead of walking. I don't know how to explain it. They look like they're leisurely strolling through our plane of existence, but haven't been known to harm anybody in their encounters and haven't actively caused any damage in the main encounters that haven't been debunked, quote unquote. There was an encounter in 2014 with a creature known as the Caramel Area creature that has also been linked to the Fresno Nightcrawlers. This happened in December of 2014 when a 60-year-old former Marine, and his wife were driving near Caramel. When they came over the hill, they saw a 7-foot-tall, slender gray creature, which is now known as the Caramel Area creature. The witness said the following: "We recently bought a place in the Fort Hill area in the southeast Highland County. We first noticed about 30 days of living here that we'd suddenly have a perfect circle that stays fresh green no matter what the weather is in our front yard. On Friday night, the 12th, we were driving home. After turning on to Caramel Road, which leads to our road, we went around the curve by Caramel Church and then up a small incline, and approximately 10 feet over the incline and in front of our truck, the alien ran across the road and into the woods." Apparently these all come from Ohio sightings. There are also several sightings that come out of Yosemite National Park, where they appear to be just slowly walking. This footage has our first sighting of what appears to be a taller, more slender creature and a shorter, stubbier creature, almost giving us the resemblance of a parent-child relationship. It is actually really kind of cute to watch, because you really, when you see cryptids, this is one of the things that one of the videos I was watching today was talking about. You don't really get to see them up close because a lot of cryptids are shy or are being faked really, really badly. So it's like it's some guy in a gorilla suit far off with a grainy ass camera. So you're having to like suspend disbelief. But in these videos, they are graciously just walking through. The little one like runs up trying to catch up to the big one. It's really, really cute. Even if it is faked, even if it is a hoax, it's still really interesting to see for what we consider cryptid creatures because they're not camera shy at all. Another thing that they wanted to talk about was everyone that made a video about the Fresno Nightcrawler wanted to confirm and say that what a cryptid is blah, 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 blah. And everyone kept coming back to an unconfirmed by science species, which I think is really interesting comparatively for this creature because a lot of people believe it to be a hoax or believe it to be faked. But there is some indigenous culture that says these creatures have been here since the beginning of time, that they are spirits of nature that are here to meld us, to fix us, to make us one with the universe. And it's very holistic, very healing, the properties that these creatures have for us. Again, we have callbacks to the Watchers, and it's not the first time that we've had interplanar extraterrestrial-like entities that are here to help guide us as humanity towards an ultimate celestial oneness. In further research, lots of people have found that many of the different cryptid sightings of the Nightcrawlers have been faked or hoaxes. There are definitely different explanations that you can find, especially with video solutions or special effects. Some believe that this creature, if it's not an alien or extraterrestrial being, could potentially be a new species of primate with shorter arms. Some people have said that it could possibly be deer that are standing upright, pants, puppets on wire, a bird walking like a crane, or a person wearing big pants walking on stilts. It was featured in an episode of Sci-Fi's Fact or Faked, Paranormal Files, where the team was only able to deem the Nightcrawler unexplainable. It now considers it to be a fun urban legend and an endearing addition to pop culture. That is probably the biggest claim to fame. A lot of cryptids, as we well know, like the New Jersey Devil, or the Jersey Devil, not the New Jersey Devil, the Jersey Devil, and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness, they all kind of become local folklore that people grasp onto and hold on to, and a lot of people have got these really cute art and plushies of the Nightcrawlers. I myself want to order one for my cryptid wall, but it has been proven to be most likely a hoax. People have recreated the footage with white pants that they've been able to puppeteer. And even YouTuber Captain Disillusion was able to make his upper body disappear or be removed from the video using digital manipulation, showing how the videos of the cryptids could be falsified. But if I remember right, in one of the videos I was watching, there was a paranormal team that was unable to disprove the original footage because of the way that the creatures walked. It was not super easy to replicate that even with puppet work because these things move so strangely. And if we can, I'm gonna try and share the video of making my way downtown video so we can all see these things walk. And you guys tell us, what do you think? Do you think they're real? Do you think they're fake? Science doesn't know because they're still cryptid and haven't been disproven or proven. But there's a lot of ways to make it digitally if you wanted to. But the original footage has not been disproven as of yet. As far as if my cryptid could be very strong in a fight against your cryptid, I'm not sure. there was an encounter outside Billings, Montana, where they have a Nightcrawler kind of pop into frame. It's extremely grainy. It's the worst one of the footages I watched today.
Yeah.
And it runs out of screen, and they say that the body of a deer was found not too far off of it, and it had its head ripped off and all the blood drained out of it. And I was just sitting there going, how? These things are spooky pants. They don't have arms. How did it just rip this deer's head off? It might have telekinetic powers. I have no idea. Another unpopular theory about this cryptid is maybe that it's not a cryptid at all and it's just haunted pants. Someone made a joke that they were pants that got put on clearance that were really mad about that in their afterlife, so they came back to walk the world again. So who knows? But that's the spooky pants of Fresno, California, the night walkers of Fresno, California, and Poland apparently. But not winning any fights there, I don't think.
All right. Are you ready for the Dark Watchers?
I am never ready for the Dark Watchers. What the fuck?
Okay, so I wasn't expecting to find as much information as I've found, but these things have been around for over 300 years. The Dark Watchers are known to be watching over the San Lucas mountain range in California. So this mountain range is along the coast of California. And when these things first started getting reported, it was when the Spanish were exploring, right? This was back in the 1700s. And they were the first to start reporting seeing these dark figures. If you look on certain sources, you will see that certain Native Americans actually do have some like verbal stories of these Dark Watchers and some maybe even like cave drawings. But other sources say that it was really the Spanish who started reporting on these Dark Watchers. And they say that these things will appear and they will watch you in these mountain ranges. And originally they named them Los Vigilant Oscura.
Los Vigilantes Oscuros.
I absolutely butchered that, but it translates to Dark Watcher. And these things today are still being reported. People still say they see them all the time. Even when the American settlers started coming out to California, they reported seeing this. And the original native people who still live there now also report seeing these Dark Watchers. One interesting fact about them is people normally see them between late afternoon and twilight. But it's always around this really rural mountain range, the St. Luca mountain range. So I'm going to quickly read a description of these things that comes from dailyyonder.com. And they say, a typical Dark Watcher is a very tall humanoid that ranges in height from 7 feet tall to around 15 feet tall. They are always dressed in what is like a flowing cloak and a wide brim hat. They are also known to typically be featureless, and they are always silent. And the enormous figure is always seen in a distance in the mountain range, either on top of a hill or somewhere in the mountains, right? And it's normally a silhouette that appears against the darkness. And the really interesting thing is they generally disappear really quickly. And like they'll vanish, kind of like in the blink of an eye, they'll be gone. The legend says that these entities stalk travelers along this mountain range. They have excellent hearing and impeccable eyesight, which, how do we know this? Because
they're the Watchers.
Anyone who ever gets close to them, they disappear. But supposedly, they can see like impeccably and have this like phenomenal hearing. And according to some paranormal researchers, they only appear to travelers who are carrying simple possessions like either like hats or walking sticks. But if you have something like a phone or GPS, they won't show up. So just imagine you're hiking this mountain. It's twilight, right? So the sun's going down. And you see a 10-foot tall figure with a hat and a cloak. It's featureless, and it's far away.
Nope.
You turn to your friend to be like, do you see that? Come back, it's gone.
Absolutely not.
That is most people's typical experience with these things.
Goodbye.
Right? And like no one has ever gotten near them. They always disappear. And it's very much like told to people, just mind your business, do not go near them. So when this legend kind of got thrust into the mainstream is when the author John Steinbeck mentioned these watchers in his short story called The Flight.
Pepe looked suspiciously back every minute or so, and his eyes sought the tops of the ridges ahead. Once on a white barren spur he saw a black figure for a moment, but he looked quickly away, for it was the one of the Dark Watchers. No one knew who the Watchers were, nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never show interest in them. They did not bother one who stayed on the trail and minded his own business.
Yes. And this story was released back in 1938. John Steinbeck was not the only one in his family that was really interested or had experiences with the Watchers. His son spoke about how his grandmother often told tales about her days as a young teacher. So this is Steinbeck's mother. Her name is Olive Hamilton. And she would talk about how she would ride through these remote woods to get to her job. She told Thomas that she saw the Watchers several times in those woods. And that she even would trade with them by leaving gifts like fruits and nuts and flowers in this like shady alcove near Mule Deer Canyon. And she would actually receive gifts from the Watchers on her trips back. And the gifts she would often receive were flowers. So there's that. And others do talk about like leaving offerings to these Watchers. Because that is something I want to also mention that our cryptids have in common, is that these things also do not seem violent or like they want to cause anybody any kind of harm. They just watch from a distance.
Your things definitely look like they want to impose violence upon you, though.
Right, because they're ginormous. And they remind me so much of shadow people in that sense.
Yes.
So that also, because technically shadow people generally don't do much. Sometimes I feel like they do. But maybe that's the difference between shadow peoples and maybe like a haunting or something.
Maybe.
Right? Steinbeck was not the only person who mentioned Watchers. They were also mentioned in 1937 by a poet named Robinson Jeffers in a poem called Such Counsel You Give Me, where he writes, he thought it might be one of the Watchers who are often seen in the length of the coast range that looked human to human eyes, but were certainly not human. They came from behind the ridge to watch. And like I said, if you look, you can actually find a lot of stories about recent sightings of these Dark Watchers. I went on a website called weirdcalifornia.com and just looking through, he talks about a story about a principal who went hiking and other hikers who've seen these figures and they've disappeared. But what I found was really interesting is when you went down to his comments, there were so many others telling of personal experiences with these things. There was one by this commenter named Linda, who lived in California, and this was commented on April 3rd, 2023. And she said that about 2 years ago, she saw a tall figure standing in a shadow near her. She couldn't see the face or what type of clothing it had on, but she wrote,
I froze and kept my eyes on it. My cousin saw it too, and she dragged me inside the house. I did not want to take my eyes off of it. I thought if I turned back, it would get me. Just today, another cousin came around last night to have some drinks. He said while he was outside, he saw a tall figure watching him. He also froze, and when he blinked, it vanished. He ran inside and got us, and we all ran outside to look for the shadow.
Here's another one. This was from Andreas of Bakerfield, and this was in August 14th, 2021. It says,
I was driving home from a beach trip with my girlfriend in 2016. It was pitch black outside, and we saw a large shadowy figure gliding across the road in front of our headlights. No notable features, just a large shadowy creature. If she wasn't awake to confirm what I saw, I would have chucked it up to me being tired. But she saw what I saw. We let it go until a few days ago, when we brought it back up again, in search of shadow people, and we learned about the Dark Watchers in Santa Lucia. This was crazy to learn. We weren't alone in this experience.
This one is actually from Arizona. It's Dan from Arizona, and I was reading from some sources that some people in Arizona also see these Dark Watchers. It says, back when I was a teen, I used to hike in the desert and a mountain range where I lived 7 miles outside of Baila, California. I'm sorry, I'm illiterate, y'all. I cannot read names. One afternoon, I went deeper into the mountain range than I had ever hiked before when I felt like I was being watched. The hair on my arm stood up. I quickly started looking around, fearing a mountain lion was near. When I looked up towards the mountain, I saw a small cave-like opening on the top of a sheer wall. There, looking out towards the valley, I could see a hooded human figure. I could not see a face since it looked like it was covered by a thin veil, but the hood and cloak looked tattered and ripped. The figure made no movement. I turned around and started walking back the way I came, and I never went back to that area of the mountain range again. That area was not traveled since there was no dirt roads or trucks, so who knows what's up there. All I know is it was not a human, and I've never been back since. That was in the mid-90s. There are so many more. That is just scratching the surface. I think that's enough. But people are still having experiences. And I know I probably mentioned this, but I kind of want to say it again. Most people either are feeling like they're being watched, they get this overwhelmingly creepy feeling, or they're seeing a figure that's somewhere between 7 to 15 feet tall, generally wearing a hat, a hood, or a cloak. The other big thing about the Dark Watchers are people have a lot of theories in how to debunk them. But before I do go into that, did you have any questions or like anything to add?
No, you've got it covered. These things are freaky.
They're really creepy.
I know that you say they're peaceful and everything, but like even a scary look from these things, I think would make my pants do things in their pants.
Yeah, totally. And it's the fact that they're so similar to shadow people that like it just makes me feel like interdimensional.
Yeah.
But of course, just like with shadow people, there's a lot of theories about what's actually going on. Because A lot of people think it's just shadows and lights tricking people because there's a lot of trees up in this mountain range, right?
Okay.
And generally when people are seeing it, it's either when the sun's going down at twilight or when the sun's coming up around like that dawn time frame, right? And it's generally hazy when people are seeing these things. So that's why a lot of people think it's just like a trick of like the light going through the trees and like your mind kind of trying to make sense of it. There is a popular theory that this is just a result of something called pareidolia or pareidolia. I feel like I don't know exactly which way to say it, but I think it's pareidolia, which is a psychological phenomenon. The human brain seeks out recognizable and familiar patterns and shapes and unclear or unfamiliar images. So a lot of people will say, like, they were showing pictures of when you see something in the clouds, like you make a face or like a animal in different shapes you see in the clouds. So when you're looking out into these mountain ranges and in between these trees, what your brain is just trying to recognize an unfamiliar thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's trying to be like, that's a bunny.
Right. So since it's like the shadows and the way it's hitting, it looks like a human, so your mind's like, oh, that's a humanoid creature watching me. They also say another theory is that people are having hallucinations because of the lack of oxygen, because it's such a high elevation. So that's another thing. They also talk about sound frequencies called infrasounds, I think. So these are hertz between 7 to 19. It's a little bit below human hearing, so the wind can cause these hertz that will make people feel like uncomfortable or they're being watched. They actually did a whole study on this where they did an experiment with these sound hertz with over like 700 people, and 22% of the audience reported feeling anxious, uneasy, or fearful. Yeah, isn't that interesting? So they're saying that maybe when people are hiking, the wind is creating these sound hertz, and that's why they're feeling like they're being watched, and they have these anxious feelings. But then that obviously doesn't explain the like seeing things, but that could be then the shadows and lights and stuff. So who knows? They've done a couple of studies on this kind of stuff. They really kind of lean on this like lack of oxygen, optical illusion, and then your brain just trying to explain it. So yeah.
Isn't that just a cryptid though? Ain't that a cryptid?
Exactly, because there's, some people who are in cars and still have these feelings, and the wind might not be affecting them. So who knows?
Who knows indeed. But there are your two California cryptids, the Fresno Nightcrawler and the Dark Watcher.
Yes.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and join us next time when we discuss various alien encounters through the decades. That's right, Amanda and Dakota are going to go on an alien extraterrestrial time capsule. We're going to hop through the 50s, 60s, and 70s to give you some of history's finest little encounters. Make sure you tune in next time for that. Go to our YouTube at Encounters a Paranormal Experience on YouTube. You can subscribe, leave us comments, interact with us. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you want to help us out, leave us a review. And if you've got any burning questions or desires, you can send us an email at encountersthepodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Dakota.
I'm Amanda.
Stay spooky.